This is An Evening with Ceres at Home. We are the Hannah Mayer Quartet, and we will begin by playing an original composition of mine entitled There's Still Time. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to An Evening with Ceres at Home. My name is Anthony Toppy, your West Coast MC. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a great show for you tonight, plenty of insightful conversations, special cameo guests, and so much more. My colleague Ann Kelly in Boston will be hosting the main program starting in about 15 minutes. But while we have you, we've put together a little something to keep you company while you listen to the Hannah Mayer Quartets intro set. You know, if you open Twitter right now, it's really easy to get discouraged by the state of the world. But it's really, really important to remain hopeful. And so to that end, we've asked Ceres staff to respond to the following request. When I think of a sustainable future, I picture ... And based on their responses, we got a wave of beautiful photos to share with you. So grab your favorite beverage. Maybe it's one of our signature cocktails or mocktails. I'm doing a Malbec tonight. Kick off your shoes. Make sure your snacks are within arm's reach. And get ready for a truly one-of-a-kind virtual benefit experience. Hannah, do I have you with me? All right. I will be back in a couple minutes. Please enjoy our vision of a sustainable future. If you've just joined us, my name is Anthony Toppy, your West Coast MC for an Evening with Ceres at home. In a second, we're going to have our first trivia question, so grab your phone and go to Slido, that's sli.do, and enter 44321 to play along. So, if you're an old friend of Ceres, we're happy to see you again. Thanks for coming back. But if you're new around here, tonight's going to be a great introduction to all of our work. Ceres is a nonprofit advocacy organization that's working to build a more just and sustainable economy. And as a nonprofit, we rely on contributions from folks like you, people who really believe in our mission. And we hope you'll consider making a gift tonight. All you have to do is go to ceres.org/at-home or text Ceres, C-E-R-E-S, to 44321. We have a $300,000 goal tonight, and we're more than 3/4 of the way there, but we really want to see that meter rise. So let's get ready for some more music, some more photos, and for our first trivia question. But don't worry, it's multiple choice. Oh, Hannah, do you have anything for the folks at home and to help them think? All right, great. Anyway, back to trivia. So, Ceres was born 31 years ago when investors and environmentalists teamed up to make a more just and sustainable future. What major environmental event triggered Ceres' finding? So, while you're making your selection, we'll share some more inspiration. But don't go anywhere, the main program is coming up next. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Anthony Toppy, your pre-show host. I'm pleased that many of you knew the Exxon Valdez oil spill was the event that inspired investors and environmentalists to join forces. They formed Ceres and established the Ceres Principles, a new code of conduct for corporations and the environment. But if you're just joining us, don't worry, there'll be more trivia later. And in just a few minutes, Ann Kelly will be joining us to host our main program. She's got a great lineup of standout women leaders, including Mary Robinson, Christiana Fageris, and Gina McCarthy. Plus, Ceres' own CEO, Mindy Luber, will be in conversation with Indra Nooyi, who was just one of 11 female CEOs of a Fortune 500 company when she took the top spot at PepsiCo in 2006. Also, just want to give a shout out. You've been listening to the Hannah Mayer Quartet, so please join me in a virtual round of applause. Excellent music accompaniment, excuse me. They'll be back later, don't worry. But now, we've got a new challenge for you. You can join our next photo slideshow after the main project. And that's because Mindy always tells us that the work we do is for our children and our children's children. So, who are you helping build a sustainable and just economy for? If you want your kids and grandkids to be in the show, you can email a photo to myfuture@ceres.org, and we'll feature them later when the show closes, along with some great jazz. I'm pretty sure that my parents are watching, so you might see a picture of yours truly before I lost all the baby fat. And now, sorry, in all seriousness, we have a great short video outlining why we mean business when it comes to climate change.
It is my obligation, our obligation, to do everything to stop the climate crisis before it stops us.
We're in a climate crisis, just like a financial crisis, where action needs to be taken.
Believing in climate change is not the issue. It's just like asking somebody, do you believe in gravity? And it's not, believing in gravity is not an issue.
Addressing climate change, decarbonizing the global economy is not a burden. It is actually the greatest opportunity.
We need to be the leaders that our kids want us to be and that the world needs us to be.
Congress cannot stand on the sidelines. We have a moral responsibility to lead, and the time to act is now.
Wow, that was some powerful stuff. And of course, incredible to hear the words of the late Congressman John Lewis and to hear him speak so clearly about the urgency of addressing the climate crisis. And now, joining me is Ann Kelly, Ceres Vice President for Government Relations. Ann, how are things in Boston?
Well, thanks, Anthony. Things are hot here in Boston in every sense of the word, so the cool jazz from the Hannah Mayer Quartet was just what we needed to relax. And I can't believe Hannah just graduated from the Oakland School of the Arts last month.
Yes, a big year for her. She also received the San Francisco Jazz and Education Award, so congratulations all around.
Well, yes, congrats to Hannah. And Anthony, we're ready to go here at the studio in Boston, and I'll be right back.
Great, Ann. Before I hand things over, I'd just like to remind folks once again of how you can support Ceres and our work tonight. To donate, you can text Ceres to 44321 or visit ceres.org/@home. The donation bar is definitely moving up. I can see we just got a gift of $5,000 from Stephen Birkenfeld. Stephen, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you who are supporting Ceres. We're receiving gifts of all sizes, small and large, as you can see from some of our recent donors. So thank you, Gabrielle, Jordan, and Bobby. We truly appreciate your support, and we're so glad to have you with us tonight. I'll be back later in the show, but now it's time for the main event.
Welcome to an Evening with Ceres at home. I'm Ann Kelly, and I'm delighted to be here with all 1,300 of you tonight. We have a terrific lineup of speakers and entertainment, and we have much to celebrate. As Anthony said earlier, our mission at Ceres is to transform financial markets to build a just, inclusive, sustainable future for people and for the planet. Ceres was founded in 1989 by a group of forward-looking investors and environmentalists who had a vision for a more transparent and responsible economy. Led by our dear friend Joan Bavaria, they began to reevaluate the responsibilities of companies as stewards of the environment and agents of economic and social change. Today, with more than 30 years of leadership and proven results, we're more confident than ever in Joan's moral vision and in the economic case for a sustainable world. But we know we have serious work ahead. We come together tonight at a moment when we are facing a trifecta of unprecedented crises, from the COVID-19 pandemic to global economic disruption to ongoing systemic racism and injustice. These are truly challenging times. But we come together tonight in solidarity to redouble our efforts on climate action, to learn how, from this moment of crisis, we can catalyze lasting change that accelerates the clean energy transition and, at last, tips the scales toward climate justice on behalf of the most vulnerable. We come together to commit ourselves to building back better with a recovery that ensures environmental, social, and economic justice for all. While we can't fill your glasses tonight, I hope we can fill your spirits with hope, so that you will walk away inspired by what each of you can do, whether you're an investor, a corporate leader, an innovator, an activist, or a concerned citizen. All of you are part of the Ceres family, and we raise our glasses to your leadership and your steadfast commitment. And I promise you that we're going to have fun tonight, even as we recognize the urgency of this historic moment. We have a fantastic menu of special guests, spotlights of brilliant Ceres staff members, and more trivia, music, photos, and festivities. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. I'm thrilled now to introduce you to several of our guests. Joining us from Los Altos is Dipender Saluja, Managing Director at Capricorn Investment Group. Hi, Dipender.
Hi, Ann. It's great to be with you all here today.
And from his home in Tannersville, New York, we have Peter Coffin, President of Breckenridge Capital Advisors. Hi, Peter.
Good evening, Ann.
And here tonight from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, our very own Mindy Luber, President and CEO of Ceres.
Hi, Ann.
Hey, Mindy.
And to all of our friends with us tonight, this is a special night for Ceres, and I could not be more grateful to have you all joining us. Thanks so much.
We're also delighted to have Indra Nooyi, the former chairman and CEO of PepsiCo and currently on the board of directors at Amazon, with us live from Connecticut. Hello, Indra.
Hello, Ann. I'm happy to join you, and I'm really looking forward to my conversation with Mindy later on this evening.
We'll turn back to Dipender in just a moment. But first up, two of our cameo guests who are also board members of Ceres. Our dear friend, Gina McCarthy, former EPA administrator and recently appointed CEO of the Natural Resources Defense Council, and one of our newest board members, my friend, a champion in the environmental justice movement, Veronica Eady, the Assistant Executive Officer for Environmental Justice at California Air Resources Board. A warm welcome to you both.
Hi, I'm Gina McCarthy, former U.S. EPA Administrator. I'm currently the President and CEO of NRDC, and I'm a proud member of the Ceres Board of Directors, and I am the self-appointed chair of the Mindy Luber Fan Club. You know, Ceres has brought us together because we share the same values, and if we work hard together, we can keep the people we love healthy. We can enjoy a clean economy that works for all of us. We can once again rely on resources that are sustainable and a climate that allows our children and our grandchildren the opportunity to enjoy a better and a brighter future. This virtual gathering is a stark reminder that science matters, and like it or not, we have to follow the science. And at its core, really, that's what Ceres is all about. It's doing what we can to recognize and face the tough realities of today so we can build a better tomorrow. So tonight, let's all thank Ceres for the great work they do. Let's re-engage in our hard work together. Onward and Upward Ceres.
Good evening, I'm Veronica Eady. At the California Air Resources Board, I work on environmental justice, developing strategies that reduce the disproportionate air pollution and climate change burdens facing California's low-income communities and communities of color. And as we adopt increasingly ambitious climate goals, the transition to a low-carbon economy provides an additional opportunity to address environmental justice. In California, we're pioneering targeted environmental and economic investments that lead to reduced greenhouse gas emissions, while at the same time delivering major economic, environmental, and public health benefits to disadvantaged communities, especially important during the COVID-19 pandemic, which we all know by now is disproportionately impacting these very same communities. Communities where investments occur have already resulted in a wide range of benefits like more affordable housing, cleaner air through zero-emission vehicles, jobs, and overall greener, more vibrant communities. Tonight is about rejuvenating us to continue the march for climate justice. 5 million of us showed up for the Women's March in 2017, 6 million for the Climate March in 2019, and many millions more continue to march for racial justice in 2020. However you choose to show up, know that your voice, your vote, and your dollars all go to creating a more just, inclusive economy and society for all of us. Thank you.
Hey, I should have said, feel free to clap tonight. Give a standing ovation, no matter what you are wearing. No one can see you. No shoes, no problem. And that's the feeling that you're going to have when you hear our speakers. Thank you, Gina, for reminding us that, yes, we need to face the tough realities of today in order to build a better tomorrow. And you are right, Veronica. Tonight is about rejuvenating us to continue the march for climate justice. Thank you to you both. And next up is Dipender Saluja. As I said, he is a partner at Capricorn Investment Group and managing director of their Technology Impact Fund. Capricorn is a member of Ceres Investor Network and of the Ceres board. Over to you, Dipender.
Good evening. Thank you to everyone for joining us tonight in celebration of Ceres and sustainability progress. I was really looking forward to seeing everyone here in person in San Francisco. And while I'm sorry that we all couldn't be together as planned, it's a pleasure to be here virtually. I hope all of you are safe and healthy in these unprecedented times. For the last decade and a half, we at Capricorn have focused on leveraging market forces to accelerate large-scale impact and to fund solutions to address large global problems, with a particular focus on tackling climate change. We are proud to work in partnership with Ceres and our fellow network members across Ceres investor, company, and policy networks to help drive needed change. While our world continues to tackle the threat of COVID here and now, the existential threat of climate change has never been more pressing, and the timeline for climate action continues to shorten. As the optimists in the room, as Mindy often likes to call us, we are seeing tremendous progress in technology innovation across clean tech and deployment at scale of renewable energy and clean technology. While its advances in clean energy generation technologies like solar, geothermal, and fusion, or the coming of age of next generation battery technologies like solid state batteries, or advances in satellite technology and sensors that monitor our planet and the oceans, or the accelerating electrification of transportation, these are all many reasons to be hopeful for progress. As one marker of this progress, spending on renewable power is poised to surpass oil and gas drilling for the first time in 2021. The amazing improvements in price performance of solar and wind generation over the past decade has started a price war among renewable resources. And now that we are past the tipping point for energy generation, exciting developments are emerging in energy storage as well. This is the final chapter in the transition to a clean electricity future. Some of you may have seen the UC Berkeley report analyzing the 90% clean zero carbon electricity plan by 2035. That delivers low-cost electricity plus many, many new jobs. And in order to do this by 2035, we would add about 1,700 gigawatts of new wind and solar and invest about $100 billion in new transmission. The other transition that has gathered speed recently is the electrification of transportation. Just in the last few months, the market cap of Tesla has gone from exceeding the market caps of GM and Ford to exceeding the market caps of all of the big three automakers combined, to exceeding the market cap of Volkswagen, then Toyota, and now Volkswagen and Toyota combined. That excitement has infected all sectors of the electric vehicle ecosystem. And after years of skepticism and ridicule from the sidelines, the world is rushing to get a piece of it. We'll save some excitement for next year's event, but watch the space for the coolest electric airplanes coming next. 10, 15 years ago, when we were pitched business plans, the majority of the discussions would be around grid parity, around the price of coal, and around the cost of electric cars versus gasoline cars, and on and on. Now that conversation has turned to price parity, but between forms of renewable energy, as new records get shattered every year. And finally, the large auto companies are tripping over each other to announce plans to go electric as soon as possible. All great progress. This transformation is enabling a whole new set of possibilities. Technologies like hydrogen generation and manufacturing of liquid fuels from carbon dioxide, which seemed a long way from commercial viability, have suddenly started becoming viable because of the dramatic reductions in the cost of energy driven by renewables. Now, as we sit here in the middle of recovering from the pandemic, this is all very important, as we see all this as a way to building back better. The renewable energy sector employed over 11 million people directly and indirectly in 2018. Renewable energy employment has continued to show strong growth worldwide since the first annual assessment by the International Renewable Energy Agency back in 2012. Solar jobs continue to grow globally. In fact, solar is already the third largest energy industry after energy and gas, after oil and gas, with almost 2 times the coal workforce. We believe that we stand on the precipice of an inflection point, the opportunity emerging from this current crisis to truly build back better, and to integrate sustainability into all we do as investors, as corporate leaders, and as advocates. Something close to us, the SpaceX launch earlier this summer, reminds us of the power of human ingenuity and innovation. By the way, there's even a 10x cost reduction story in that launch. With optimism and resolve, we can commit to continuing to integrate sustainability into all we do, and to thus help shape a global economy and future that is sustainable, just, inclusive, and equitable. In closing, I just want to say a big thank you to Mindy and to the wonderful Ceres team. You are an amazing, effective, and impactful group. We are so proud to partner with you. And thanks to all of you who are here with us virtually tonight. I salute Ceres and all of you for your innovation, your resilience, and your leadership. Together, we can be the change makers this moment calls for.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, Mindy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipender.
Go for it.
Thanks, Dipender. And by the way, if you ever get discouraged about the state of the clean energy economy, call Dipender. He always has positive metrics to report. That was truly inspiring. So I told you a bit about Ceres history, but what is it that we do exactly? What makes our work effective? Well, our goal is to move the largest players in our economy, investors, companies, policymakers, and market regulators, to take action on 4 global sustainability challenges: climate change, water scarcity, inequitable workplaces, and that's broadly defined, and outdated capital market systems. Our theory of change enables us to challenge entrenched, risk-laden systems, to ask hard questions, to rely on real science and hard data, and the use of constructive pressure when necessary. We encourage courage, both in capital markets and on Capitol Hill. The courage to do what is both environmentally and economically sound, to make decisions that do not discount the future, but rather call on us to nurture a reimagined capitalism, to quote our prolific board member, Rebecca Henderson. Over the years, and with your help, we've built influential networks of investors, companies, and nonprofit organizations that have grown exponentially in size, scope of work, and depth of engagement. The commitment, collaboration, and problem-solving spirit among these groups has led to lasting change. In a nutshell, Ceres partners with member investors and companies to help them build more sustainable enterprises and to create investment portfolios that accelerate a sustainable, zero-carbon future. Finally, we ask all of our market leaders to use their influence to help shape public policy, to advocate for action on climate, water scarcity, deforestation, and all measures that will bring us closer to the just, inclusive, sustainable economy we seek. And to help paint a clearer picture of our work and our team, we've created minute-long videos of some of our star players. We call them Ceres in 60. And here's tonight's first, with Anna Orians talking about her efforts to limit global deforestation.
Hi, my name's Anna Nichols-Orians, and I'm a foodie and a nature lover on the Ceres Food and Forest team. Growing up, my family and my mentors encouraged me to explore nature through hiking, travel, literature, and research. And through those experiences, I learned the importance of the relationship between humans and nature, but also the value of our environment. After college, I was awarded an opportunity to live in Brazil, and there I worked for an organization, O Projeto Lontra, or the Otter Project. I tried to teach kids to be stewards of their environment, and I supported community-based sustainability efforts to protect habitat while balancing the needs of local communities, Indigenous people, and local business owners. I knew these local solutions would be so important to bring to a global stage. And at Ceres, the work that we do does just that. My team translates scientific research and local-based solutions to spur investor engagement and catalyze improved corporate performance to stop deforestation. Knowing now, though, that 11% of GHG emissions are coming from land conversion and deforestation, I couldn't feel more certain that this is the project that I want to work on. Because while there's no silver bullet to stopping global warming, all roads to 1.5 degrees Celsius require the elimination of deforestation. So thank you all for joining us tonight.
One of the great side benefits of working at Ceres is getting to know cool people like Anna, who help us to make such an impact. And you'll meet more of our colleagues later tonight. But now, let's turn to our next guests. We're joined tonight by one of my climate action heroes, Christiana Fageris, former Executive Secretary of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Among many accomplishments, Christiana was one of the principal architects of and a driving force behind the Paris Climate Agreement. Prior to hearing from her, we're also honored to be joined by Christine McDivitt-Tompkins. After serving as CEO at Patagonia, Chris left Patagonia, the company, to move 6,000 miles south to Patagonia, the region. There, she and her husband, Doug Tompkins, spent more than 20 years conserving and permanently protecting nearly 15 million acres in Chile and Argentina. After Doug's death, following a kayaking accident, Chris accelerated her conservation efforts, as she will describe. A warm welcome to both of you.
In 2019, we finalized the largest private land gift in history when our last 1 million acres of conservation land in Chile passed to the government, spurring a public-private partnership that created 5 new national parks, enlarged 3 others, in some protecting an area larger than Switzerland. I share these thoughts not with you for self-congratulations, but to preface a simple point and an urgent challenge. If the question is survival, survival of life's diversity, of dignified and healthy human systems, of a livable climate, then the answer must include all of us working with very smart strategies as much and as quickly as possible. Everyone has a role to play in this, but especially those of us with privilege, political power, and wealth. Let's face it, we all know that this is the playing field where our futures are largely determined. And this gets to the core of the question. Are we really prepared to do what it takes to change the end of this story? I see young people from around the world rising up to remind us of our culpability, shaming us for our inaction, largely in terms of climate change. They inspire me. If there was ever a moment to awaken to the reality that everything is connected to everything else, it's now. The course of every individual human life is affected by the actions of every other life around the globe. And the fate of humanity collectively is tied, for better or for worse, to the health of nature, encompassing all the other creatures who share the planet with us. We have a common destiny: to flourish or to suffer together. Thank you, Ceres. Happy to be a part of this, and I wish you all well.
Hello, friends. We all know that we have not had an economic crisis such as this one since the Second World War. But we also know that 70 years ago, we had no knowledge of sustainability and certainly no experience with it. Today, we know that investment portfolios that are kept focused on profit, people, and planet, sustainable portfolios, are the only ones that are going to move us forward. And furthermore, over just the last few years, we have developed an incredible wealth of experience of how to build those investment portfolios. That is why I am hopeful that as we emerge from the health crisis, move into the economic recovery, that we will be able to build back better. Not to recover the carbon-intensive economy that we had before, but to build back a low-carbon, high-resilient economy underpinned by much more wise investment. Under the leadership of Ceres, I'm actually quite confident that this is, in the end, going to be what propelled us forward. Thank you.
Well, Chris, you inspire us with your words that if there was ever a moment to awaken to the reality that everything is connected to everything else, it is now. And Christiana, you are right, that sustainable portfolios are the ones that are going to move us forward. Thanks to Christiana and Chris, we are moved by your remarks and by your life's work. So, how's it going in San Francisco, Anthony?
It's great, Anne. Just listening to Chris's comments about the role of land conservation and protecting our natural resources just reminds me of how lucky we are here in California to have such amazing, beautiful, and easily accessible state and national parks. But back to business, I've got 2 updates to share. We've had some gifts come in that I want to acknowledge, and then we've got some more trivia. So first, we've had an amazing $2,500 gift come in from Stephen and Susan Mays Rothstein. And every bit as important, we've had gifts come in all sizes. So thank you all for really helping us raise the bar. Thank you, Rashad Sadakot, Lisa Manley, and AJ Grant. We really appreciate your support. And remember, if you want to join those folks, all you have to do is text Ceres to 44321 or visit ceres.org/@home. If you'd like to make a pledge, you can email my colleague Chris. His email is smith@ceres.org.
That's wonderful. And let me just say that all of your gifts, large and small, are a vote of confidence in our collaborative work and are very much appreciated. So, Anthony, what's the next trivia question?
Right. So if you're like me and you're always thinking about your next meal, this question is going to be for you because it's about food. Every part of our dinner plate has an impact on our water resources. So the question we're asking is, what percentage of the world's fresh water resources are used to grow crops, feed livestock, and process ingredients? Is it more than 40%, more than 50%, more than 60%, or more than 70%?
Okay, well, that's a non-trivial trivia question, and it's a great segue to talk to our guests about the Ag Water Challenge, which is Ceres' partnership with the World Wildlife Fund to drive water stewardship in the agricultural sector.
Yes, absolutely. So companies that join the Ag Water Challenge get support from Ceres, our brilliant colleagues on the Ceres Water team, as well as the World Wildlife Fund and other NGO partners to help them analyze water risks in global supply chains.
And I'm not sure if everyone knows that water crises and extreme weather events exacerbated by climate change are among the top 5 threats to economic growth and geopolitical stability, according to the World Economic Forum.
Absolutely. Freshwater scarcity isn't just an environmental issue, it's a financial issue as well. And food companies really need to be paying attention. While some might think that climate change and its impacts are far off in the distant future, we know there are real, tangible impacts on water resources that communities around the world are dealing with, from right here in California to the Philippines and beyond. And we need to look no further than what happened in Cape Town, South Africa, almost running out of drinking water.
Yes, and that was tragic, and sadly, it won't be the last city to face the same threat.
Absolutely right. But let's see how our audience fared with the second question. All right, maybe it was too much of a softball, but folks got it right. More than 70% of the world's freshwater resources are used to make the food on our dinner plate. We'll have more trivia later, so thanks for playing, everyone. But now, before I hand it back to Anne, I just want to share another quick reminder for our at-home audience and how they can participate in tonight's events. If you want your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, nephews, cats, dogs, birds, fish, whoever you're fighting for, to be part of our closing slideshow, you can email pictures to myfuture@ceres.org. Thank you to everyone who's already emailed us. We have a ton of pictures to use. We'll try to show them all if we can, but just stay tuned for the end of the show. That's all for me, Anne. Take it away.
Thanks, Anthony. Well, now I'm thrilled to introduce our colleague, Stephen Clark. He's Director of Corporate Clean Energy Leadership, who will introduce our program to ramp up climate commitments and advocacy. We call it Commit to Climate.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Clark. I'm the Director for Corporate Clean Energy Leadership at Ceres. I credit my family, and my parents in particular, for my commitment to social justice and to my professional career in environmental sustainability. Both my parents were deeply involved in the civil rights movement here in the United States and also in anti-colonial movements abroad in sub-Saharan Africa. We grew up with a strong sense of being part of a global community and a social responsibility to do everything we can to help make that community and the planet on which we depend to be a better place. Since then, I've committed my professional career to doing so. And here at Ceres, I've been very focused on our Commit to Climate initiative, which aims to build private sector leadership on climate action, including supporting climate, clean energy, and clean transportation policies, as well as securing strong corporate commitments that advance the goals of the Paris Agreement. We've had tremendous success on this front, and Ceres has played a leading role in moving over 800 companies that have committed to setting science-based targets, hundreds of companies that have committed to sourcing 100% of their electricity from renewable energy, and dozens of companies that have committed to accelerating their transition to electric vehicles.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, Stephen and I work closely together, and I can say that companies who make strong climate commitments are also the most compelling advocates when it comes to speaking with lawmakers. They are talking the walk and walking the talk, and it makes a difference. Let me turn now to another insightful speaker. As I mentioned, we're pleased to have the founder and president of Breckenridge Capital Advisors, Peter Coffin, here tonight. Peter is a member of Ceres President's Council, and Breckenridge is a member of Ceres Investor Network. Welcome to you, Peter.
Thank you, Anne. Breckenridge is very proud of our long partnership with Ceres, a partnership we began back in the summer of 2012. At that time, the world was still recovering from the global financial crisis, a crisis largely born from the pursuit of short-term profits. Ceres has always worked to shift the focus of investors further out on the horizon, and we share that same goal at Breckenridge. For us, as a bond manager, Ceres has been a big help in our work applying ESG factors to our research and in engaging with companies. Now we are in the midst of another crisis, And we're learning some of the same lessons from the last crisis, and they're consistent with the principles that Ceres has always advocated. First, we cannot assume the status quo and ignore long-term risks. Whether it's risks to global health or climate, we need to address them now in order to ensure a sustainable future with opportunities for future generations. Secondly, we can't ignore science, research, and data. We need to listen to the leaders in all fields and value their work, whether they're in the fields of medicine or climate science. And finally, we must recognize the importance of great leadership. Leadership matters, especially in dealing with a crisis today or a potential crisis tomorrow. This is true for companies, cities, states, and countries. These are principles that Ceres consistently advocates itself and amplifies through investors. In sufficient numbers, investors can influence markets. Leaders in business and government pay attention to markets. Markets are a great point of leverage. Ceres gets that. We'd love to snap our fingers and make change happen instantly, but it's not that easy. It takes a smart strategy and a lot of hard work. It takes people like Mindy and an organization like Ceres, who can inspire and engage people like all of you here with us tonight. Together, we really can build it back better. I am honored to be a part of Ceres as a member of their President's Council, and am greatly honored to introduce its president and CEO, Mindy Luber.
Peter, thank you. Thank you for your continued support and for all that you've done to build a just and a sustainable future. This pandemic has been a painful reminder of how unprepared we are to confront global systemic threats. It's led to deadly and devastating consequences to human life, to livelihoods, and to the economy. And it's also shown a light on how people of color, the poor, and the marginalized bear the brunt of these impacts, just as they do with another systemic threat that we all know too well. That threat, of course, is the climate crisis. Some have noted that greenhouse gas emissions dropped to their lowest levels in a decade due to this pandemic. But to take hope from that is simply false optimism. Even amid this drop in emissions, we are learning how the climate crisis actually worsened in the last few months. Carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere hit an all-time record high. Deforestation rose by 50% in the Amazon. And the dry spring in the American West has residents there bracing for the worst mega drought in 1,200 years. Despite this list of terribles, I am here to tell you that I am still hopeful that we can act with enough speed and ambition to prevent the next disaster. And that's because in the last few months, businesses, policymakers, and advocates, young and old around the globe, have shown that they have not lost sight of the climate crisis. Apple just pledged to go carbon neutral, joining Amazon and Microsoft. Lyft vowed to have an all-electric fleet in the next decade. These are audacious goals. And investors have stepped up too. BlackRock added its heft to our $41 trillion Climate Action 100 campaign, where we're moving the largest corporate emitters to act on climate. And the second largest pension fund in the United States, New York State Common, said it would divest from 22 coal companies and double down on sustainable investments. Ceres has had a hand in all of this, and our advocacy efforts have grown in size and in strength. We just mobilized 300 companies and investors for the largest business-led advocacy day for climate action in U.S. history, meeting with 80 congressional offices to push for a climate-smart recovery. This kind of climate action in the middle of a pandemic is truly inspiring. It shows we have not lost our momentum, nor will we. And that's because when there is a crisis, there is an opportunity. And the way I see it, we can right now go backwards to a fossil fuel economy, or we can change course and invest in a better future. Trillions of dollars have been set aside to kickstart our economy, and that number will continue to grow by the trillions. We have a chance right now to bring about lasting transformation. But this is going to take all of you, all of us, to make that happen. So we need to fight together for a recovery that we know will build back better. A recovery that invests in clean energy and sustainable infrastructure. One that creates an economy that doesn't discriminate against any race or community and distributes the benefits more equally to produce growth and good jobs. And all of this and more should be part of any just and sustainable recovery. Every new investment, every grant, every loan, every donation is a choice we make about the future. And that's where you come in. With your support, we can ensure that our own children and grandchildren have a future to look forward to. With your leadership, we can emerge from this current crisis and help prevent the next one. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight and in the months ahead as we get to work.
Well, as you can tell, Mindy means what she says. And all 140 of us at Ceres are proud to stand with her and to accept the urgent mission she has placed before us. And now, our final Ceres in 60, about one of the most important and impactful climate change efforts ever, Climate Action 100+. Here's the head of Ceres Investor Network, the Reverend Kirsten Spalding.
Hello, I'm Kirsten Spalding. I'm a Senior Program Director for Ceres Investor Network. I've been at Ceres now about 12 years. I came to Ceres after serving a term as Chief Deputy Treasurer under Phil Angelides here in California, and I was working for him representing his environmental financing authorities. Before that, I guess, I was a union lawyer and I represented pension funds, but I've had an amazing 12 years at Ceres, and I would say this is in some ways the most significant work that I could have ever imagined. It's changed a lot over the last 12 years. Maybe the initiative I'm most excited about is Climate Action 100+, and in that initiative we're organizing the world's largest investors to work with the heaviest emitting companies to really transform capital markets and the whole economy so that we're going to see a lower carbon future, a future based on principles of sustainability that are really going to change the way I and my children and my congregation, all the people I care about, will live into the future. It's been an amazing time, and as I look forward, I see just incredible opportunity for all of us working together.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susan Sayers, Chief Development Officer at Ceres. It's such a pleasure to be here with you tonight and to hear from so many inspirational speakers. I want to take this opportunity to thank our host committee for helping to make tonight a great success. This transition from our in-person dinner to a virtual webcast has been equal parts challenge and excitement, and their support has truly made all the difference. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, whose generosity brought us well over the halfway mark to our original $200,000 goal. Then something really incredible happened in the last week. We received a generous $100,000 pledge from a dear friend to Ceres who prefers to remain anonymous. That gift truly lifted our spirits and tonight's goal to $300,000. And we are still going strong tonight. In fact, we just received a $15,000 gift from Jeff Eckel. Thank you so much, Jeff, for all that you do to support Ceres. And now, I am delighted to introduce Barney Shabble. Barney is the chair of the board of Nephila Climate and also the chair of the Ceres Board of Directors. He will make tonight's toast, and then we will be back with Indra Nui and Mindy Luber for a live fireside chat.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you all for joining us tonight.
Originally, I was looking forward to hosting you all here in Northern California at the Academy of Sciences this evening. And while I'm disappointed not to be greeting you in person, I'm thrilled, and we are all very appreciative that roughly 1,000 people are tuned into this program tonight. My family's involvement with Ceres goes back over a decade, 2007. And one of the things that first drew us to the organization was its philosophy of engagement, of working directly with capital markets participants, corporations, investors, other nonprofits, on emphasizing the importance and materiality of sustainability and how environmental and social issues are critical for maintaining a stable economy and ensuring a livable future for us all. So I wanted to thank you all for joining us tonight. And on behalf of the Ceres Board of Directors, I'd like to offer a toast. So please join me in raising a glass. May we all rise to this occasion, this time of crisis and opportunity, to build back better and forge a more just and sustainable world. And now, I'm pleased to welcome back Mindy Luber, President and CEO of Ceres, who is going to join us in a virtual fireside chat with the former Chairman and President of PepsiCo, Indra Nooyi. Thank you.
Indra, welcome. I'm not sure I ever told you this, but to me, you are not only an inspiration, but a rock star. Kids aside, a true rock star in my book. I mean, not only are you the first female CEO and board chair at a company the size of PepsiCo, where you built that company extraordinarily, and the first CEO and chair of color at a company like PepsiCo, you took the company to a profitable heights, but you also brought sustainability, human rights, social issues, environmental issues, climate change, hunger, water issues to the fore at PepsiCo. You set goals, and we did everything we can to cheer you on and to work with you, but you made sure those goals were audacious and they were accomplished. And so watching you build that company, watching you lead on sustainability globally has been nothing short of an inspiration. You know, I am truly delighted to have you here and to count you not only as a leader, but as a friend. I'm actually pinching myself tonight, not only because I'm here with you, but think about the women we're surrounded by. Christiana Fageris, who just spoke, who led us to the Paris Agreement, or Mary Robinson, the former president of Ireland, who has been a climate warrior for climate justice, not only climate change, but how we make sure the impacts don't impact the poor and the neediest in the worst ways. And Gina McCarthy, who passed so many regulations and laws, helped pass laws in Congress in her years as the EPA administrator. So to all of those women and many more who are joining us, but to you, Indra, thank you. You really have made a huge difference.
Thank you for having me, Mindy.
So let me jump in. We don't have a lot of time, and I'm eager to hear from you. Let's talk about the lessons from the pandemic. The pandemic has impacted us all. I'm not going to go through how much. The question is, what are we learning from it, and how do we move forward? I know you've done a good deal of thinking about it. We'd love to have your thoughts.
Thank you, Mindy, for having me. You've been a great inspiration to me through my time at PepsiCo. So I hope my association with your organization continues for a long time. Let me talk about the pandemic and the lessons from it. You know, I rarely agree with Milton Friedman, but he said something that I do agree with. He said, only a crisis, actual or perceived, produces real change. The fact of the matter is, we have experienced an actual crisis, and this moment has no precedent in any of our lifetimes, because it's a pandemic, the likes of which we've never seen in over a century. And it has really exposed all the fault lines that existed in our system of business, of living, of governing. It's exposed all the fault lines. And it really struck us at a time when we were not ready for it, because viruses have little respect for borders. And it is a tragic irony that this virus came at a time when the nation state was ascendant, when nations were actually retreating behind border walls. when multilateral organizations that were created to unite us at moments like this were not properly equipped or empowered to do so. And it moved at a speed that we were unwilling to comprehend, let alone respond to. So I had a front row seat to this entire COVID crisis because I was co-chair of Reopen Connecticut. And while we were successful in reopening Connecticut safely, I must say I watched what worked, what didn't work, all the fault lines, and what needs to be fixed coming out of the pandemic. And I'm going to summarize everything I learned in 7 lessons. I'm just going to give the highlights, and then we can talk about it some other time in much more detail. First, critically important, we have to reform government, federal and state, to ensure that it's led, staffed, and structured to anticipate and address the next crisis. And I say this because I've spent a lot of time the past few days reading The Great Influenza by John Barry. All the lessons from the 1918 pandemic apply today. So we have to make sure we codify the lessons and get ready for the next one. Second, we have to recommit to strengthen multilateral organizations and to greater global cooperation. Viruses know no borders. If we don't cooperate as a world, it is not going to work. We are going to struggle to contain viruses. Third, we need to redress the inequalities that plague our society because this pandemic left sections of our population vulnerable to crisis. People who really could not afford to go through this crisis, they were all exposed to the crisis. Fourth, we need to respect our elders, the boomers and the silent generation who preceded them, and protect them by valuing their contribution to society. Some people talked about, let's sacrifice the elders for the economy. I think that's a terrible statement to make. Fifth, we need to rethink how we live our own lives, what we eat, how we live our lives. You know, the virus attacked people with comorbidities, and too many of our people have too many conditions that the virus really, enjoyed. So we have to really create a new society which is healthier, stronger, and more resilient to future pandemics. And alongside, we need to redesign our healthcare system so it's accessible and affordable to all. These are all lofty things we have to do. Sixth, we have to reimagine K-12 education because we're going to have generations of our kids left behind. And finally, we need to reset the relationship between private sector and society and governments because governments cannot do it alone. People have to work together to address these issues. So I think we have 7 big tasks that need to be done. It's not that they're so humongous that we should shy away from them. We have to lean into them because the next pandemic is going to bring us to our knees if we don't address this one and take all the lessons from this and reform what we're doing.
Leaning in is exactly what we need to do. So thank you. Those were 7 great lessons. We will dig in further and share that with our colleagues as we go through this event. We must learn. If we have not learned that we were not ready for this pandemic, and because of that, we're in greater jeopardy, we are seeing more deaths, more harm to our economy, to our humanity. We can't let that happen again. So following your blueprint is the way we need to go, and we'll look forward to working with you on that. As you know, at Ceres, we spend a lot of time working to move companies, to work with companies, to prioritize sustainability, not as a separate, cute little side issue that they deal with once in a while, but as you did, as a governance matter, as a chief executive matter. I know you're on the board of multiple Fortune 500 companies, a little tiny one that I think we call Amazon that has a special impact given its size and its footprint. As a board member, how do we make sure we are integrating sustainability at that level so companies are using all that they have to act on climate, on sustainability, on human rights?
So actually, I feel very privileged to serve on the board of Amazon. I think it's a remarkable company. It's a great American company, discovered here, founded here, created here, grew out of the back of a car. So we should celebrate this company. What is interesting about Amazon is that it's a founder-led company, but it doesn't have the privileges that typical founders take for themselves. It doesn't have 2 classes of stock. It's a board where there are 5 women and 4 men. It's a majority women-led board, a women-populated board. And the board is viewed as an independent board. And we meet in executive sessions. We ask all the tough questions. And Jeff and the management are all open to any feedback we give them, and they learn and they respond from it. On sustainability issues, it is interesting that Amazon feels sustainability issues deeply, whether it's the carbon footprint because they have so many trucks on the road, how to address the brown box, the whole environmental issues that come out of so many packages going around. What happens to garbage collection? What happens to how much space is used up in trucks? What happens when you get one book in a big box? Is that too much wasted shipping that's happening? Every aspect of sustainability, Amazon people themselves talk about it, set goals for themselves, and go off and make it happen. So if you look at what they're doing with electric vehicles, employee minimum wage, healthcare benefits for their employees, I think a lot of the things I used to do at PepsiCo in terms of creating a scorecard and monitoring it and managing it, Amazon does that and more, in spite of the fact that it's many, many times the size of PepsiCo. So, Mindy, the one thing I tell you is I lived performance with purpose for 12 years at PepsiCo under my CEO-ship. One of the things I committed was that once I left PepsiCo, I can't walk away from purpose. I cannot walk away from performance with purpose. So any organization I get involved with has to embody performance with purpose. And Amazon, I'm proud to say, embodies that.
You certainly lived it and showed us how possible it was for a large company like PepsiCo to have goals of profit and goals of sustainability. I'm going to put an unfair burden on you in my next question, and that is, watching you at PepsiCo, you always gave me hope. You can do it. A major Fortune 500 company can set audacious goals and meet them. We've got a lot of young people today who are living a complicated life. COVID, structural racism, climate change. We need to give them hope. We need them involved in the challenge, but what gives you hope every day? And what do we want to tell the young people who have a long life ahead of them and lots of responsibilities?
In the last 5 or 6 years, one of the things I always told my PepsiCo employees is that I was managing the company for them because this company is their company. They're the youngsters. They're the ones that are going to inherit this company for years. And I say the same thing to all the young people on the call today. The world is theirs. Societies that they're going to live in and make lives for themselves and make their livelihoods in are theirs to shape and enrich and change. So I think it's time us elders played the role of elder statesmen and not further the bickering and divisions that we do today, and let the young people who really want to create a better world come together and take charge. Every time I look at the young people, I'm filled with hope that they want to create a better world. They don't see the difference between, black or white or man or woman. They have a more equitable view of the world. And I think we ought to unleash the power, the innovation, the humanity of these young people and say, go for it. It's your world. Go ahead and shape it.
And how hopeful are you to just bring together COVID and coming out of it and youth and our future? How hopeful are you that we will learn the lessons of COVID, of not being prepared and what that did to us? How do we come out of that and build back better and build a non-fossil fuel future, but a future that is about good jobs and equity and justice and fairness and a sustainability factor that will allow our kids to have that future? My kids, Abe and Jesse, they're tired of hearing me call them out, as I have for the last 25 years in different careers. But, they'll often say, what makes me so hopeful? So I'm going to put that burden back on you. Are we really going to learn? And how hopeful are you?
Look, I think young people today have gone through multiple crises. They've gone through, the financial crisis. They went through COVID. And immediately along with COVID, they've gone through all the riots coming out of Black Lives Matter. So they've seen fairly significant disruptions to their life and their future. So I'm hopeful that they're all going to sit up and take notice and say, somebody's not going to fix society for us. We are society. Now, you are right in saying sometimes the say-do loop is a little bit mixed up because they say one thing and they don't do it. The example would be my kids will talk about using less water. And then you tell them to take a shower for 5 minutes. They say, why? There's plenty of water. Why can't we take a shower for half an hour? So, there's all of that contradictions that are very resident in them. But I think that they're going to quickly wake up and say, this is no longer my parents' generation. It's mine. And we have to make sure that we become the change that we want to be. And I'm watching early signs of it. And I hope it sustains. And I hope, Mindy, we don't thwart it. I think it's time our generation, the boomer generation, gracefully allows these young people to lift their heads and, forge on.
And the marriage or partnerships of government, of investors, of corporations, is that getting better? Because we live in a we-they society. Some people want something, others want something else. We've politicized death and masks in the COVID crisis. And we've politicized clean water as if one part of the country likes it and the other part doesn't. Clean water is what we need for all of our families around the world. Are we getting the message out that we are one global society, and what happens here in the United States impacts India, and what happens in India impacts Bangladesh, and that we need to find a way to work together? Are you seeing our future coming together?
Not yet. Not yet. But, I tell you, just because we say not yet, we can't just sit back and say it can never be changed. We have a great political process, and using the political process, using the power of the ballot, we have to make change happen. Again, I'm not talking in partisan terms, just generally speaking, any change in a democracy happens through the ballot. But to exercise that power, you have to be educated. So education becomes critically important. You've got to know the truth about all of the issues, and you've really got to exercise your constitutional right of voting because you're educated. Only then can you get the right change. If you don't have that, you're not going to get the change. So in many ways, we have to focus on education. We have to focus on a media that's going to be factual, which we don't have today. And we have to make sure, the John Barry's book on the great influencer, the last chapter, the last few pages are very powerful. If you get a chance, read it. He talks about the fact that when you're in the middle of a pandemic, depend on the science, don't distort the truth, give the public the facts. Only then can you get them to rise up and do the impossible. And so it's very important we take those lessons to heart, because we are at an interesting time today. And I think it's time that all our leaders went back to facts, to science, talk to people as if, they can understand what you're saying, but talk factually. Don't spin all the time.
Great.
I think we could have a better future.
Great. Well, you are giving me hope, and no doubt you've given everybody who's listening tonight and will hear you in the future hope. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a great
pleasure. Thank you for having me, Mindy. Thank you all.
Sure.
Well, thank you, Indra and Mindy. And now, don't go anywhere. We have two special cameo guests coming up that you do not want to miss. First, I have the privilege to introduce acclaimed writer, producer, director, and activist Norman Lear. He's the creator of so many hit television shows, including All in the Family, Sanford and Son, and The Jeffersons. And he's also the founder of the progressive advocacy organization, People for the American Way. Welcome to you, Norman.
Hi, and good evening. I'm Norman Lear. Throughout my short, almost 98 years now, I've experienced how storytelling accelerates change. It's about people beginning or imagining a better world and seeing a path forward. We're all here tonight because we care deeply about leaving a sustainable planet for our children and for our grandchildren. Lynn and I do. I know Mindy and Ceres do too. What gives me hope is the power we have to make change, to think beyond today and beyond ourselves. Corporations hear your voice because your actions and wallets speak too. For the investors and executives here tonight, your voice is loud. Use it. And for those of you here, because you give to Ceres, as we do, keep it up. Thanks for tuning in, and keep up the good fight.
Well, Norman, thank you. And we will indeed think beyond today and beyond ourselves. And Anthony, a little birdie tells us that yesterday was Norman's 98th birthday. Can you believe it? Let's raise our glasses.
Absolutely. I'll join you in that one, Anne.
Thanks. Ready? I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Norman.
Happy birthday, Norman. All right. So cheers and birthdays aside, I know we have a cameo coming up from Mary Robinson, but I want to get one more trivia question before that. So grab your phones, everyone. So chances are you've had plenty of times to see this image before, maybe accompanied with a New York Times headline. So what does the sign carried by climate activist Greta Thunberg say? And while we're giving folks a moment to play, it'd just be a good time to remind you that the Hannah Mayer Quartet will return shortly, and we'll be sharing photos submitted by our audience members of their children and grandchildren who they're fighting for to inherit a just and sustainable future.
I'm looking forward to the music and the photos, and maybe just a little bit more of that celebratory wine.
Absolutely. So grab your smartphone, and for those of you who remember printing pictures, go grab the photo album in the hallway that's gathering dust and send us a cute photo to myfuture@ceres.org.
You know, Anthony, I can't help but think when you were talking of that quote from President Obama. We're the first generation to experience the impacts of climate change, and we're the last generation who can do something about it.
Absolutely. Words to live by, Anne. So now that we've given folks a chance, let's see the trivia results. All right, so it looks like most of our audience is familiar with Greta's work and knew that it was option 3. I went to Stockholm about 10 years ago, but my Swedish is a bit rusty. Anne, do you want to give it a try and pronounce the correct answer there?
Well, I think it's something like skolstrejk för klimatet. But in any language, we support Greta. She's standing up for what's right. And for our final cameo, I'm honored to introduce Mary Robinson, the former president of Ireland, former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, founder of Mary Robinson Foundation, Climate Justice, and the chair of the Elders. We are so grateful to have President Robinson with us to share a few thoughts.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to take part in this event because I'm a great supporter of Ceres. I've been at a number of physical meetings in the past in different parts of the world, and this is a special time because of the COVID-19 crisis on top of the climate crisis. We have an unprecedented opportunity to move now to clean energy technology, also divesting from fossil fuel and having that world for our children and grandchildren. I am aware of the injustice of climate change, many layers of injustice, in particular that it affects the poorest countries and communities disproportionately. There's also a gender dimension, the role of women in trying to make their communities resilient, but not in many countries having land rights or property rights or having access to capital. So they have to fight harder, and they do. And I've become aware of the need not to be optimists in this very difficult situation, but to be prisoners of hope, to use that expression of the first chair of the Elders, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And it is those frontline defenders who have taught me about being prisoners of hope. I've seen the devastating impacts, but I've also seen the fight back. And that is what we need. We need the courage now to make the transition, a just transition, remembering also the workers in the coal, oil, and gas, which we have to now divest from, but do it in a way that brings them with us to a future where there will be further jobs. So I pay tribute to everyone who is a prisoner of hope in this crisis, because that is what we need.
Thank you so much, Mary, for those words of wisdom. And hello again, everyone. I hope you have been enjoying your Evening with Ceres at home. It's been really wonderful to explore this new virtual format, which allows us to bring in so many more friends, supporters, and Ceres staff. And I want to again give a huge thanks to our speakers, our sponsors, and our special guests. You know, what really strikes me about this format is how surprisingly personal it can be. We've dropped into the homes of some terrific sustainability champions, and we've met you in your own home. And you've been able to glimpse what really makes Ceres tick. If I can brag on my colleagues a bit, we have quite a talented and passionate team who really know their stuff. But what you may not see is that Ceres is a relatively small organization. Our big reach and our big impact come from moving powerful players to action. But while Ceres works with large investors and companies, we do not depend on them for funding. In fact, we want to avoid that so that we can be the independent advocates that we need to be. Instead, 80% of our budget comes from philanthropy, from foundations and from individual donors like you. And now, more than ever, we need your support. So if you have made a gift tonight, thank you. We are deeply grateful. And if you have not done so, I hope you will. Your support truly makes a difference. And I am thrilled tonight to announce that we have blown through that $300,000 goal. We are well over that number, and I know that if you keep supporting us, we will raise the bar even higher. So thank you. But beyond your gifts and contributions, which have been amazing tonight, I hope you will join us and join our movement. As we have heard so eloquently from so many speakers, it is only by working together that we can turn the corner and build a just and sustainable future for everyone. And now, literally joining me from across the room is my friend Ann Kelly.
Hi there, Susan. Ann. What a fun night that was.
Yeah.
It was a perfect evening. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers. And cheers to all of you. And thank you so much for joining us. Now back to you, Anthony.
Thanks, Ann. And as a quick aside, the first time I saw Ann in action was the 2016 Ceres conference. She was on the main stage talking to Senator Whitehouse about climate policy. And I just remember thinking, if I can be that good at speaking in front of that many people, I know I will have arrived. And so, Ann, I hope I made you proud tonight. But anyway, I digress. It may be getting close to bedtime on the East Coast, but here in California, the celebration continues. We're now ready to share your photos of future sustainability champions, reminding us of who we're really fighting for. I'll be back after this tune. In the meantime, refill your cups, grab some more snacks. This is an Evening with Ceres at home. Wow, thanks, Hannah. I'll just let you all know, I stopped playing trumpet when I was in 6th grade. I think my parents are very thankful for that, but I think I can say we're all pretty thankful that talented students like you all have stuck with it. Thank you so much for bringing us great music tonight. Hannah, why don't you introduce us and let us know who we've been listening to?
We are the Hannah Mayer Quartet. I'd like to introduce this amazing band. We have Oliver Tuttle on the trombone. Aidan McCarthy on the bass. Jayla Hernandez on the drums. I'm Hannah Mayer, and this is If I Were a Bell.
For those of you who haven't made a donation yet, we really hope you'll consider making one now. We've made it really easy for you. You can simply text Ceres to 44321, or go to ceres.org/@home, or you can email my California colleague, the creative director behind this whole evening, Chris Smith. His email is smith@ceres.org. On behalf of all of Ceres, our board, our president's council, Mindy, the 140 plus staff, we really thank you for being with us tonight. We're going to finish the way we started, strong, live, and with a swing in our step. Please stay safe, please stay sane, and keep up all the great work you're doing to create a just and sustainable economy. We sure will. Cheers.